Hello, welcome to Gardener's World. This is homemade comfrey tea that I'm feeding to the citrus. Citrus are plants that like lots of feed and water in summer and then starvation diet in winter. Comfrey tea. It smells pretty bad, I can tell you. It smelled a lot worse before I decanted it, but it's a small price to pay because it does really good stuff. And the Paradise Garden has exceeded all my expectations. It's giving a lot of pleasure. The grasses have trebled in size, they're lustrous and soft, and the Verbena bonariensis has grown enormous and tall and is flowering with a tolbagia underneath, and the tolbagia will get better as it gets hotter, and we've added cornflowers into the mix, and all around the lilies are flowering magnificently. And as good as the flowers is the fragrance. On today's programme, Nick is at RHS Harlow Car near Harrogate, luxuriating in the lushness of their bog plants.
Having moist soil creates a fantastic habitat that can allow you to support all sorts of beautiful plants.
Francis is on the Isle of Man, visiting an allotment where plants that are used to make cosmetics take centre stage.
It's antioxidant, antibacterial, anti-aging, everything.
And I shall be adding some new spires of colour to my cottage garden. About a month ago, this little bed was rich with colour, because they're all bearded irises, and this is really the only place here at Longmeadow where they can thrive, because it's south-facing, there's a wall behind it which bounces the heat back, and this little strip of bed is poor soil with really good drainage, and those are the key things. Heat and drainage is what you need to grow really good bearded irises. But to keep them looking good, they do need lifting and dividing every few years, and now is the time to do it. Now, the secret is just to tease them out the ground, because you want to preserve as much root as possible. There we go. Now you can see that there's a really nice selection of roots, and this is feeding the plant, but the rhizome, which is this ginger-looking, knobbly growth, that's storing the food that will produce next year's flowers. And the rhizomes must always be above the surface of the soil, because the more sun that gets this summer, the better the flowers will be next summer, which is why they were so good this year. Now, if you want to make new plants, you can either break them with your hands or cut them with a knife. But the important thing is to keep a bit of leaf and bud with each section. Now, at this stage, just cut back the foliage by about 2/3. You only do this when you move the plants, and it's to stop them rocking, because when you replant them, there'll be almost no purchase in the soil at all. And you just want to make sure that if it's windy, they don't get jolted around. Right, let's put that back where the original plant was. Now the rest are going to go in this end bit, which is pretty compacted. So I'm just going to dig that over. I'm just going to sprinkle some grit on there and work it in. Drainage is the key. Now, put the roots down in the ground and leave the rhizomes on the surface. Those will get established very quickly, but always, even for plants like this that love hot sunshine and really good drainage, give them a soak. Not only will that give them moisture, it also pushes the soil around the roots. These now will be fine. They will need no more attention. They will get established, the rhizomes will bake, and I'm sure they will flower along with the rest of them next summer. And there is a magic about bearded irises because they manage to conjure up from extreme sunshine and sometimes parched, very poor soil, these incredibly rich, voluptuous flowers. But Nick has been to RHS Harlow Carr in Yorkshire to look at a range of plants that are the exact opposite.
Lush and luxuriant foliage. Unusual in shape. Big in size. A splash of vibrant colour. And great at supporting insects and small amphibians. Plants that like boggy conditions bring an extra dimension to your garden. The term bog or bog garden has potentially negative connotations, but actually all a bog is an area of ground that's saturated with water but not stagnant. So if you've got that naturally occurring in your garden, or you can recreate it, it opens up an incredible opportunity to grow the most desirable group of plants. When you think about bog plants, it conjures up images of large-leafed verdant species, which give a bog garden its bulky structure. This deliciously lush-looking plant is a real favourite of mine. It's Dahmira peltata, and this is just one of its phases. So it starts out the season by just producing blooms which emerge from the ground. Now, it's in the Saxifragaceae family and has these wonderful domes of pink flowers. It's a perfect bog plant. It will grow all the way down to the water's edge. So that's phase one. Phase two is the production of these glorious leaves. And it's a very specific adaptation. They've got huge leaves, so there are lots of stoma, in other words, holes on the back of the leaves, so the transpiration process can happen in an accelerated way, and they can dispel of that excess water. And the final phase is into autumn, where these leaves take on delicious ruddy red tones and look absolutely spectacular. Verdancy in a bog garden needn't mean a lack of colour. Talk about a delicious confection of colour. Just look at these guys. They're the candelabra primulas, and particularly the Harlow Carr form. Look at the incredible range of colours: purples, pinks, peaches and oranges. Now, their parentage is quite confused, so there's thought to be Beesiana in there, and Japonica, and possibly another 2 primula parents, but they've led to these spectacular plants. Now, they come up to about 60 centimetres high, flower-wise, and have these beautiful whorls of blooms. Now, in terms of propagation, they're fairly straightforward. You can split them after flowering, or you can collect fresh seeds, and that's the best way to get them to germinate and be healthiest. Now, as a plant, they're clearly very happy in these boggy conditions. What amazes me is just how tough and hardy they are. They last for absolutely years, and they can take extremely cold conditions, so down to -15 or -20, and keep producing these beautiful flowers. If you'd rather a more subtle primula, why not try Primula secundiflora? It has deep magenta flowers and slender leaves. Like most other bog plants, it's evolved to cope with high water and low oxygen levels in its root zone, known as anaerobic conditions. Lots of us grow bearded iris in our gardens, and they're renowned for liking to be baked in the sunshine. But this iris is very different. It's a true bog plant. It's called Iris chrysographs. It has these beautifully deep flowers. Now, they appear at first glance to be black, but in fact, they're the deepest of violet tones. And for that reason, it's really important where you site them in the garden. They need a pale background. Something like these ferns works brilliantly. It will flower through late spring and early summer, and then the flowers will die back. They can be cut off, reasonable foliage into the autumn, which will then disappear, ready to re-emerge in spring. What I think is particularly special about this is that the falls, in other words, these lower petals, are so distinct. So it gives you this wonderful lax form, just creates these deep, delicious domes of velvet. Bog plants have adapted in all sorts of ways to deal with very, very damp conditions. However, there are some really special plants that can grow in all sorts of different environments. And this is one of them. It's Xanthodeschia aethiopica. And it comes from South Africa. And there, I've seen it growing on cliff sides. Yet here, it's growing directly in water as a marginal plant. It will also grow very, very happily in boggy conditions, and it will grow in the garden. So if you've got an area in your garden that floods at certain times of year, becomes very wet and then dries out again, this is the plant to go for. Now, it has this fantastic lush foliage down at the base, which stays there for most of the herbaceous season, so April through to about October. And then you get this run of flowers through most of the year. Beautiful arum quality to them. And for me, the special thing is that you can cut these and they will last for at least 2 weeks in water in the house. I tend to think of Meconopsis as one of those sort of fantasy plants that lots of people try to grow and sadly so often fail. Of course, that is all down to the culture of the plant. They are, in essence, a form of bog plant. They need a very moist soil. So if you look at their growing conditions in the wild, in the Himalaya, it will really give you a steer as to how to grow them at home. They like to be cool and they like to have heavy rainfall. So in the UK, they tend to do best in the northern parts of the country. Of course, the other key thing they need is either neutral or a slightly acidic soil. In the wild, of course, they get very cold over the winter. And so if you can replicate that by putting the fresh seed in a fridge for 3 or 4 months, it's a process known as vernalisation. But essentially, it means just creating an artificial winter, which will trigger them ultimately to germinate. Lots of us have damp spots in our gardens. Sometimes they're naturally occurring, or they might be as a result of a leaky pipe or an overflowing pond. They needn't be seen as a disadvantage. In fact, having moist soil like that creates a fantastic habitat that can allow you to support all sorts of beautiful plants.
More than any other group of plants, when bog plants are happy, they show it. So hostas and Lysimachia and Ligularia are all really growing and glowing. And I'm particularly happy to see that the Iris insata that I planted a few weeks ago is now flowering. So that is obviously happy too. This is a variety of pea called Blauwschokker. When they're like this, the purple pods can be eaten as a mange-tout pea. But if you leave them, the peas will swell out and then you can pod them as normal and the peas are delicious too. But if you're starting a veg garden now, in the middle of July, and you can only afford a few seeds, you haven't got a lot of space, is it worth it? Well, the answer is a resounding yes. If you've got a patch of ground or even a large container and you want to grow some vegetables, there is still time. What I've found myself with is this raised bed. I've cleared away the broad beans, so I thought I could use this as a trial plot. It's small but big enough to grow a number of different vegetables, and if I sow them now, Let's see how they do by the end of summer. Now, the first thing to do is to rake into a fine tilth. The first thing that I will grow in any plot of any size is some lettuce. I've got Little Gem, which is a cos lettuce, but small. And because it's small, it grows quickly. And I just use the side of my hand and run a drill down either side. And that's just a little indentation to sprinkle the seeds into. When we come to the final plants, we're looking to have them spaced about 6 inches to a foot apart. So, although we start with the seeds much closer, they are going to have to be thinned. Now I just cover those over simply by running my hand down. It turns the drill back over itself. So that is Little Gem. Now I've got another type of lettuce called salad bowl. Salad bowl lettuces, you cut and they regrow, and you can cut them again. You might even get 3 cuttings off them. Now I want to sow something that could carry on into winter, and that's beetroot. And I've got a golden beetroot here. Lovely, yellow, sweet beetroot. And the seeds are much bigger. So again, sprinkle the seeds fairly thinly. In an ideal world, about 1 to 2 inches apart. So we'll cover these over. Now I've got room for one more member of the beet family. I think some spinach would be really nice. So, spinach renegade. Beetroot, spinach and chard are all the same family. Right, let's sprinkle them along. Cover them over. If you don't have a lot of room on a horizontal level, that doesn't stop you going up. And I want to grow some climbing beans. I won't get many in this space, but enough to make it worth doing. So I've got a few sticks, and the idea is that you have one plant growing up each support. That there. This is a variety called Eva. I'm putting them inside the bean sticks. It's fast growing, which is important at this time of year. What I'm going to do is put one in the middle for luck. And what we have is a little miniature vegetable garden. But now, the really important thing to do is give it a good water. Now, Frances has a full-blown allotment in Kent. And I know, having talked to her, there's a lot to do, and she's very involved in that. But this week, she's actually off her allotment, looking for inspiration much further afield.
Today, I'm a long way from my allotment in Kent. I've come to the beautiful Isle of Man to visit an allotment that's a lot more than just an edible pantry. It's a natural living beauty parlour, full of stuff that's good for you on the inside and on the outside. Tanya Anderson has been allotmenting for nearly 10 years, and her plot is overflowing with plants that heal, soothe, rejuvenate and beautify. This looks amazing.
Thank you.
Oh, and it smells amazing. I wish you could smell this. This is just, oh my goodness.
So these are soaps and bath products, salves, skincare, all made with herbs and weeds as well from here at the allotment.
Is this just one plot that you've got here?
I've got a smallish plot, and I have different skincare plants interplanted with vegetables and perennial fruits. I grow peppermint, roses, lavender, and basically create beautiful things for your skin from your allotment.
So I can see all your sort of normal allotment produce, but when did you start doing the extra bits?
Well, I started getting interested in making beauty products when I lived in London, and I experimented with making lip balms and really simple bath products and things like that. And then when I moved to the Isle of Man, I got this allotment. I took a beekeeping course, so I had honey and beeswax to use. And it was my opportunity to start growing botanicals that I could use in skincare. And there is this mystique in the beauty industry, this beautiful beauty counter with lots of pots of lotions and potions with all these botanical names. The reality is that you can grow a lot of them yourself and process them into your own skincare.
That is so inspiring. Plants have been used in cosmetics and skincare for centuries. As far back as 10,000 BC, the ancient Egyptians were using oils and lotions scented with myrrh, thyme and rosemary to protect and soften their skin. And in 2019, it's brilliant to see those principles still being put to good use on a humble allotment.
I'd like to show you my favorite skincare plant. It's just here. Calendula. It's the workhorse of the allotment.
Yeah.
A lot of us already have it as a companion plant or for edible flowers, but it also has properties that make it really important for skincare. So it's a healing plant. There's resins and all different types of natural plant chemicals that can relieve inflammation, that can help soothe eczema, good for acne, chapped lips. It's just amazing.
That is incredible. I mean, I know it's used for dyes as well, isn't it? So it's like a real all-rounder. Are there particular varieties or cultivars that are better than others?
I would say stick with the ones that are orange, so like Indian Prince.
Okay.
There's also varieties that are medicinally important.
So the more orange the petal, the better it is?
That's what they say. So the orange petals are much higher in resins, so they have those components for healing. Yellow is fine as well, but they say that orange is better.
So antioxidant, antibacterial,
Antibacterial,
anti-aging,
everything.
and you can eat them.
And you can eat them, and they're so cheerful. They can even bloom in the middle of winter.
Calendula brings a happy pop of colour and grows easily in gardens, allotments, containers, and even window boxes. It's an annual, but it will self-seed everywhere, so this really is a plant that anyone can grow. So we've got our calendula flowers. What lovely things we're going to make with it.
So first of all, when we're making things like salves, which we're going to make just now, we need to completely dry the flowers to get all the moisture out.
Okay.
And then you put them in a jar, about 2/3 full, and then pour a light carrier oil over them. So sweet almond oil or grapeseed oil is a really good option. And then you let them infuse for at least 3 weeks, up to a couple of months, in a place that's warm, but out of direct sunlight.
Okay.
And then you can see this lovely golden infusion. So the next step after this is actually straining the flowers and the oil. So if you're thinking about using calendula for a particular skin issue, it's best to always speak with your doctor or dermatologist first, and then go from there. You're getting skin therapy just by doing this. Your hands are covered in it.
Aromatherapy muslin. Oh, it feels really satisfying just squeezing that last bit out. This hand salve recipe begins by melting beeswax. Then, Tanya adds some of that infused calendula oil, along with comfrey oil and plantain oil, also made from the allotment, and all known for their fantastic skincare properties. A slow stir, and then with the pan off the heat, geranium essential oil is added for more glorious fragrance.
I just love the scent of it, but it's also said to be anti-aging and anti-inflammatory as well.
Sounds good to me. It just smells amazing. As soon as that goes in, it's just lovely. Once the mixture starts to thicken, it's poured into containers and allowed to set.
You could use the spatula and just smear it on your skin afterwards.
Well, my hands are so oily already, I won't even notice, but... That's incredible. I took way too much. Do you want some of mine?
Just let it cool completely, get to room temperature, and then you can put lids on, and they're good for a year.
A year? Mm-hmm. That's my Christmas present sorted. There are hundreds of plants that can be used for cosmetics and skincare. And Tanya's allotment has a bounty of plants that not only look beautiful, but are all useful in their own right. Chamomile is often known as a miracle herb, again with great properties for soothing skin irritation, as well as stomach upsets and vomiting. It's even thought to ease anxiety and insomnia. But this living beauty parlour isn't just down to Tanya. She's had a little help from some little friends. These are your bees?
These are my colonies, and there's primrose and bluebell. They love going into the allotment, pollinating veg, flowers.
Do you use any of the stuff that you get from the hives in your cosmetics?
So both beeswax and honey are amazing ingredients. We've used some of the beeswax today. So beeswax is really protective, so it leaves a nice coat on your skin. Honey, it draws moisture from the air to your skin, so it keeps it really moisturized. But it's also an exfoliant, so you can put it on your face as a mask and rub it in, and then, yeah.
Oh, that sounds really sticky. There is plenty of information out there about the benefits of eating healthy food and being careful about what we put into our bodies. But equally important is what we're using on the outside. Tanya is using her allotment to grow multi-purpose plants, from delicious edibles to healing herbs and beautiful botanicals. But I'm not one to pass up an opportunity to try something new. So when Tanya offered me a honey face pack and a cup of homemade herbal tea, how could I resist? Thank you. Who needs a spa when you have an allotment? Cheers. Cheers.
You see, that is where I've been going wrong all these years. I'd be looking 20 years younger if I just slathered honey all over myself. About 6 weeks ago, we dug up the stone paving of this lower terrace on the mound and replaced it with 2 new beds. And the colour scheme is pale yellows and pale blues. And by and large, it's shaping up very nicely. Some things are looking fantastic. This Achillea Martina, along with the Rose Vanessa Bell, is a really good combination. And I like the way that the blues of the agapanthus and the lavender and even the purple of the thyme, which is really at its best and wonderful for bees, are picking up with the geranium, the nigella and the cornflowers. The one major drawback is because we had to bring in topsoil from elsewhere in the garden, we've also brought in a whole rash of weeds. And there's no solution except just to get down your hands and knees and hand weed them. Now, still to come on today's show, Carol looks at the sublime planting combinations at Woollerton Hall in Shropshire.
Most of us gardeners spend a lot of time pondering about what to plant with what. But this garden delivers a masterclass in plant association.
But first, we're off to Huddersfield to see how one woman's passion for bees has helped to transform a school.
Morning, ladies. How are we doing today? Looking lovely. My name's Yvonne Kilvington, and I work here at Ashbow School, but out of school, I'm the Yorkshire bee lady. I'm responsible for maintaining the vegetable beds, the gardens, looking after the bees, the hens and the duck, not forgetting Donald, with the children's help as well, and bringing the children out into this fantastic environment. I've had a love of bees since I was a little girl. I'd run after bees, butterflies. That was my childhood, and coming here, that's what I wanted the children to experience as well. When I first came here, it was builder's rubble, it was burnt out cars, shopping trolleys, so we got the JCBs in and they cleared the area. I had a vision what I wanted it to look like. Borders, wildflowers, nicely mown grass in areas, but a lot left wild. So you can see here we've got red campion, we've got aqualegias, we've got lots of perennials, and most of the perennials are really good for bees. So we've got this lovely borage here, which is one of my favourites. Slightly prickly feel to it, but they've got these fantastic blue star flowers, which are loved by bees. And they're great to liven up a salad as well, because they are edible and they've got a cucumbery taste to them. And then just poking through here is one of my favourite flowers, Nigella, Love in a Mist, which looks so pretty, just poking through the fennel. These are great plants for putting in your borders, mixing around in your veg beds, and they're great for our pollinators. So I think we need to be a little bit braver when we come to our gardening and letting some of these herbs and vegetables bolt, so they've got these fantastic flowers. Bees are having a tough time at the moment, so we need to teach our children the skills of beekeeping, because it's an ancient craft, and they're our next generation beekeepers. So we set Bee Club up about 7 years ago. We currently have 10 beehives in our apiary. Get dressed up in their bee suits. Inevitably they turn into spacemen. Where have the bees gone?
Did they fly out?
They've gone down in between these gaps, down into the hive a little bit deeper.
Is there a king bee?
There isn't a king bees are bare. There are lots of drones, and the queen has lots of boyfriends. We've had all the great queens here. We've had Bee Elizabeth I, Bee Elizabeth II, Queen Beyonce. So these names do stick. They send out their oldest members to do the hardest job. And that would be the equivalent of us sending all our pensioners out to go dig up the motorway. It is quite ruthless in there, so, but that's bees for you. The children's attitude and view towards looking after our pollinators has really increased. They know the importance of bees play in our survival, so they have a good understanding of the importance of looking after nature. So what we've got here is cornflower, and it's just got a little bud down there somewhere, but it's a lovely blue colour.
A famous person said that if bees went, humans wouldn't be able to live, because bees pollinate a lot of our things.
So I'd say we've got a win-win situation here. We've got a win situation for the school in that we're growing our own vegetables. A win situation for the bees because we're providing vital forage for them, and it's teaching the kids about the importance of the role that they play. Doesn't get any better than that, does it? It's about planting from one side of the year right through to the other. So starting January, February, you're thinking about snowdrops, crocus, those early spring bulbs that provide a rich source of pollen. Right through to the end of the year, looking at things like ivy, allowing your ivy to flower, because the flowers are really pretty. They're like little fireworks, and the bees will be all over that at the end of the year, because that's the last forage that they're likely to get. Our honey tastes very sweet, so there's a mixture of all the summer and the spring that you find around here. So it's sunshine in a jar, really.
Nice and sugary.
Is it me who's going to eat it all? Are you going to?
I don't know.
Because I could eat it all. Think I'd turn into a bee if I did?
Yeah. Hopefully.
Hopefully. There's days when I finished work and I often stand at the gate and just gaze up and down this area, and I think, did we do this? It's a place to come and contemplate. They make me feel happy, and that's hard to describe, because unless you put your hand on a beehive and you hear their hum and you can smell the smells of the honey, see the queen, see the brood, you can never feel what a beekeeper feels. You've got this overwhelming desire to protect her.
It is incredible when you think about it, the closeness and intensity of the relationship between people and honeybees. And I've slowly been delving into that world as I learn about bees. I've been keeping them for a couple of years now under the guidance of Gareth, who is my mentor. And he came here a few weeks ago, and we opened up both hives and they both had honey. And Gareth took a few frames away with him and he brought back some honey for us to enjoy. Now, it does smell distinctly floral. Yeah, I thought that would interest you. You'd like some, wouldn't you? I'm not going to give you any. You wouldn't like it. You saw a spoon. Absolutely lovely. There are moments when the garden all seems to come together in a kind of perfect unity. But to make your garden as good as it possibly can be, actually one of the most important things you can do is to go and visit other gardens. And that's precisely what Adam has done. He's been to Cottesbrooke Hall, which is not far from his own home.
You know, this place is only 50 minutes from my house. It's taken me nearly 10 years to get here. Why did we do that? If something's miles away, we'll go. If it's on your doorstep, you never quite get there. But I'm here now, and I'm going to enjoy it. Cottesbrooke Hall dates back to 1702 and is owned by the MacDonald Buchanan family. Since 2017, the garden has been nurtured by head gardener Craig Rudman. It looks stunning, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Craig, I've obviously chose a wonderful day to come round and walk around the garden.
In the Northamptonshire sunshine.
Exactly. How would you describe the garden?
It's fairly complex. I would say the overriding feeling is one of intimacy. We've got lots of fairly small garden rooms, some cracking statuary, some brickwork that dates back to the beginning of the 18th century.
How has the garden evolved since you've been here?
We've worked on a couple of major projects, really. One was the entrance border, which is a really interesting planting of woodland shrubs and woodland understory.
Yeah.
And we've recently replanted this herbaceous border as well. What we're trying to do is really push the plant collection and make it interesting for people like you and I to visit.
What size is the actual ornamental garden?
We've got two sides to the ornamental gardens, really. The entire gardens are 14 or 15 acres. It's split more or less right down the middle by a road on the estate. This side of the garden's very formal, and then the other side is kind of much more loose and wild.
What do you really like about the garden?
Well, having said I'm very plant-focused, I'm also a bit of a kind of landscape detailing nerd as well. So, I mean, when you have a look around, just take a look at the pergola, the brickwork on there, the detailing in that, the oak on the top, the way it's been cut and processed, it's just phenomenal. The terracotta tiling underneath, I mean, it's little details that are almost hidden, but when you take the time to have a look, it really kind of brings the garden to life.
It does. The bits that I really love, so I look forward to that.
Cool.
Even in this rain, this smells absolutely wonderful. It's a white wisteria, which flowers that bit later, and it's holding on really well. But for me, what it does here is it makes a statement, but it makes you pause as you're leaving one area to the other. And I know this is a big space, but you could use something like this over an archway, and it really just stops you. You can enjoy the space and then move on. it comes to dealing with levels in gardens, they can be really complex and difficult to work out. This little bit of design is really well thought through. If you imagine, the most obvious thing to do would be to step straight down into the space, and that would start to swallow up that lower terrace. And then the steps use what would be wasted space. But they're quite shallow, so it's quite a relaxed movement down. I even love the little detail at the bottom that extends out into the lower courtyard. And for me in here, the final detail I think that works well is the brickwork on the walls and the house is picked up and the horizontals, and it really sort of brings a cohesion to the whole space. That tree is epic. That's what I love about the big gardens in this country. Somebody's gone out, collected these trees, planted them for us to enjoy. You can't get that in the average garden. It's a Lebanese cedar, and it is beautiful. It's really caught my eye. You can see the rain is bringing it alive. It's really quite a simple but elegant piece of design. First of all, the pool works well as you come through the doorway, but also on top of that, what I like about this is the contrast. The gravel's very light. If you'd have gone for a dark colour, you wouldn't have that contrast, so this central area really pings out. And you could do something like that at home, maybe with a bowl of water, put something over the top of it so it reflects. You can use some on a terrace in a small space. But also for me, it's the connections here between the areas, and this dark colour here is picked up in the purple beach in the distance there. But then that comes back here because here we've got our straight Fagus sylvatica, which is the straight beach. So the leaf shapes are the same, and that connects the space. And lastly, look at the roses over there and the greys of the Achilles. It really sort of sits well together, so you're using that dark colour at the back to plant against. Again, it's something you could do at home with shrubs, but maybe just using different varieties. This is incredible. I love Gunnera. Admittedly, some places in the southwest are looked upon now as being invasive, but for me, they're an upside-down umbrella. They catch the water and then they take it down the spiky stem right into where the plant needs it. But also, I think they demonstrate that even our big gardens can give us ideas to use at home in our own gardens. One of these I have grown in a container in a courtyard garden and just lifted it in and out of water. It's amazed me today because I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but it's been put together in such an understated and elegant way. And I tell you, I am not going to leave it 10 years before I come back again.
Well, that garden is certainly now on my list too, and never too late to go, even if it's close by. But I hope when I go, the weather is a little bit better. A little wet for poor Adam there. And we did have a terribly wet June, and the roses here in the cottage garden hated it. But now we've had a bit of sunshine, they've perked up, and are still going strong. There is usually a stage at this part of summer, and it depends where you live, it happens at different points, when suddenly the borders sort of look so full of colour and vibrancy and substance, empty. The forget-me-nots go, the tulips go, the early perennials are past, you cut them back and you realise there's not enough left behind. And what I really like at this time of year is height, spires and towers of colour. Delphiniums, of course, do that job beautifully, but a lot of people find that they get eaten by slugs or they're just not growing well for them. But there are plenty of other alternatives. Now, Veronicastrum are wonderful, wonderful plants, but they need a little bit of room. I've got fascination, tall, almost bottle brush flowers, ending in slender minarets. It's a really statuesque plant, and the beauty of this is it will flower from now right through into autumn. And like all Veronicastrums, they absolutely are full of pollen and nectar, and they are a magnet for all insects. They like a fertile, rich soil with good drainage, and they don't like drying out. It's got a nice root system. I'll just do the thing of gently teasing it. This Veronicastrum fascination is, I think, already looking as though it belongs here. And whilst it's really important to consider these things and choose your plants carefully, I confess that in the cottage garden, certainly, it's a bit haphazard. Plants get trialled, and if they work, hooray, and if they don't, I just move them. But Carol has been to Woollerton Hall, where the planting and the plant combinations are exquisitely thought out and refined.
Most of us gardeners spend a lot of time pondering about what to plant with what. But this garden delivers a masterclass in plant association. At every twist and turn, you're presented with beautiful plants, exquisitely arranged in the most painterly fashion. In fact, the whole place is a gallery, an exhibition of picture-perfect plant combinations. This is a perfect example of how cleverly plants are combined in this garden. Here you go through a series of pinks, starting off in the foreground with these big round flowers of this lovely rose, Olivia Rose Austin. Behind it is a deeper rose, Gertrude Jekyll, and then that same colour is picked up right at the back here with this peony. Everybody loves peony bowl of beauty. Pink outer petals and then these petaloid white bits making this sort of powder puff centre. And then the whole thing is punctuated by foxgloves, again pink and white. And across the path too there are more foxgloves, and in the background, growing along the hedge, is a white rose, Rambling Rector. So all these plants establish a rhythm through the bed. They take your eye through, so you're constantly looking backwards and forwards and enjoying every plant in here. But what happens when the foxgloves have dropped the flowers and the Rambling Rector is no longer rambling? It won't matter, because taking over from them are a wealth of other plants. There are asters, big blocks of phlox. They'll use the same kind of colours and keep that colour going right the way through until October or so. And what's more, the whole thing has been executed perfectly. This has to be one of the most romantic and intimate corners of the garden. It's utterly beautiful. This gorgeous apricot rose is Lady Emma Hamilton. It opens from almost red-stained buds. It's got bronzy foliage too. And that's repeated in the centre of this white mullein. This is Verbascum Shakespeare album. So not only is there a tiny repeat of the colour within it, but also it adds these tall vertical spikes. And then in the background, this railing covered with this dainty clematis. This is Clematis Anita. And in the foreground, a seat. It's white, but it hasn't been painted recently, and that's deliberate too, because that lovely rusty colour just picks up the colour of the rose. The whole thing is It's symphonic. People usually treat this Astelia nervosa as a plant for hot, dry, sunny places. But this is where it really belongs. Look how it's thriving here in a bit of shade, in lovely, damp, moist soil. It's a beautiful contrast to this clematis. This is Clematis romantica. And if you look carefully, these beautiful silvery buds really pick up the silver from the Astelia's blades. And then you've got the soft, felty, but still silvery leaves of this Plectranthus. It's argentata, meaning very silver. And here at my feet, Wollerton White, a little salvia, very dainty. It's utterly beautiful, and it's the kind of thing that anybody could emulate in their own garden. This has to be one of the most peaceful corners of a garden, as the centrepiece is a rose aptly named Tranquility. And to set it off is this little salvia called Schneehugel, Snow Hill. These feathery white spikes are soft and gentle, and the green almost merges with the white and takes you through to an Artemisia. Artemisia ludoviciana, Valerie Finis. And then a combination of those greys, greens and whites is this Miscanthus. It's Morgenlicht, morning light, and it really does complete this perfect little cameo. There are other mouth-watering vignettes within the borders. Niphophia Nancy's Red picks up the glowing hues of Alstroemeria Orange Glory. And if you look carefully, Tropiolum ciliatum has been allowed to hoist itself up the Alstroemeria stems. Sometimes one plant on its own makes a dramatic picture. Here, Ligularia the rocket zooms up behind the back of a rustic seat. The fact that it hasn't yet opened its bright yellow flowers means all the emphasis is on its black stems and toothed green leaves. In complete contrast to all the soft pastel shades in lots of the garden, this garden is dramatic, it's hot, it's got wonderful reds, oranges and yellows throughout it, all combined with brilliant green. But whereas in most gardens you'd attain structure and form using shrubs and trees, here it's all obtained by using perennial plants. Here's an Achillea, this one's Coronation Gold, and then way off in the distance is another one, Gold Plate. And that kind of theme is employed everywhere through these beds, so you get this lovely sort of rhythm and movement within them. It all serves to give these beds cohesion and at the same time to increase their impact. In the background, a brick wall, which is the perfect kind of setting for this, and against it, a red rose, Park Director Riggers. Taken together, the whole thing is cohesive. It all forms an impactful ensemble. How inspirational. What a stimulating experience to walk through this garden. Although it's full of ideas you want to steal or borrow, what it does above all else is teach you the importance of experiment, of adventure, and above all, to make your plants paint your pictures.
The truth is that even the loveliest selection of plants, the most carefully looked after, the best organic system, sooner or later has some problems. And if they grow Solomon's seal, the chances are the Solomon's seal sawfly will be at its work. These little grey caterpillar-like grubs are slowly munching their way through this Solomon seal plant. The fly will lay its eggs on the stems, and then as they hatch out, they rise up and they can strip a plant. The extraordinary thing is that although it looks devastating, next year I can guarantee this will grow back just as well. And I think the reason why this particular Solomon seal has been affected like this is because although it's in shade, which it likes, it's quite close to the hedge, which is sucking up all the moisture. So it's too dry, so it's weakened. Because I've got other Solomon seal in the garden, which has got no sawfly on at all. Perhaps they're all here. Well, there's not much that I can do about this now. It's too late for this year. But here are some jobs you can do right now. Whether you grow your tomatoes in a greenhouse or outside, they do need to have their side shoots regularly pinched out. This is the growth between the main stem and the leaves. And as you're doing so, make sure they're properly secured so they can carry the weight of the ripening fruit. Although foxgloves have almost finished flowering, they are setting seed like mad, and little seedlings are growing all around the parent plant. So it's a good idea to dig up some and then pot them on individually. So these can then be planted out either in autumn or next spring where you want them to flower, rather than in just one cluster. It is important at this stage of summer to make sure that everything is supported. So tie in climbers like sweet peas, and vigorous annual plants like sunflowers should be firmly staked and regularly tied in. These are tayberries, and they're a cross between a blackberry and a raspberry. And many people think that they have the best qualities of both. They tend not to be grown commercially, so a brilliant plant to grow in the garden or the allotment. And the same with the loganberries, and they make wonderful jam, or you can stew them. And I think soft fruit is one of the least glamorous parts of gardening, but actually one of the best. Well, that's it for today, but I'll see you back here at Longmeadow next time. Until then, bye-bye.